Hello everyone, I'm Himanshu Vasnani from Department of Mechanical Engineering. I'm here to discuss with you on the subject material science. Subject code is ME207, unit number 3, lecture number 18 in the series. And today's topic are age hardening, that is precipitation hardening, and batch furnaces. So let's start with today's lecture. So the learning objectives for today are to provide the students with a basic understanding of age hardening, that is precipitation hardening, and batch furnaces. And nowadays outcome after this lecture will be the students have learned the basics of age hardening and batch furnaces, and students understood various types of batch furnaces. So let's start with the nitriding process that we were discussing from the last lecture. So let's continue with that. So that this is the process of diffusion saturation of steel surface with nitrogen. So far we have studied about various heat treatment processes like annealing, then normalizing, then tempering, hardening, uh, and now nitriding. So the purpose of this whole heat treatment process, studying all this heat treatment processes, is to you can say bring out the application based material to go for the changes that will make the uh, job or workpiece uh, usable during the applications as per the demand. So here the nitriding is also this heat treatment process is also serving for the same. Like that, this is the process of diffusion saturation of steel surface with nitrogen. Now nitrogen is coming into action. So far we have studied about carbon and all that. Now nitrogen is coming into action. Now what happens? The component is heated in a mixture of ammonia and hydrogen so that nitrogen diffuses into the surface layers and hard nitride compounds are formed. Okay, the component is heated in a mixture of ammonia and hydrogen so that the nitrogen diffuses into the surface layer. Now they are trying to input diffuse nitrogen in the surface layer of the workpiece, and hard nitride compounds are formed. Okay, the surface layer. The process is employed for increasing the wear resistance. Now here comes the application. Why we are doing this heat treatment process, this nitriding as a heat treatment process? We are doing this because we want to increase the wear resistance and endurance limit of the machine element or the part. Like if, for example, they have told that it may be used crankshafts or worm gears or cylindrical sleeves or shafts, etc. These are the various parts, you can say machine elements in which you are applying nitriding, and the purpose is to increase the wear resistance and endurance limit of the machine elements. So prior to nitriding, okay, steel articles are subjected to hardening and high temperature tempering, like improving heat treatment and finishing process. So after nitriding, they are ground and polished. Okay, so this is an also important. Now you can see the in the diagram on the right hand side, I have shown you the examples which I just took the name before in the previous slide are given on the diagram on the right hand side, like crankshaft and camshaft and valves and cylinders and gears. These are the elements in which we go for nitriding process. Okay, so these are called as nitrated parts. Okay, it's it's wear resistance will increase after nitriding process. The wear resistance increases. Okay, now in a nitriding process, the component is heated in a mixture of ammonia and hard nitride compounds are formed. So common nitriding is carried out at a temperature of 500 to 600 degrees centigrade in a muffle or container through which dissociating ammonia is being passed. Okay, what we do, we heat our workpiece in a mixture of ammonia and hard nitride. Okay, in a mixture of ammonia, and during the process, hard nitride compounds are formed. Okay, and this process of nitriding, we carry out at a we do this process of nitriding at a temperature of 500 to 600 degrees centigrade. Okay, in a muffle or a container, and through which the ammonia is being passed. So this process is the nitriding process is used with those alloys of steel which contain elements that form stable nitrides. Okay, that form stable nitrides, and they have given examples like chromium and molybdenum, tungsten, vanadium, aluminium, etc. These are the elements where they form stable nitrides. Okay, so they can be used for nitriding process. So it is probable, sorry, it is a probable that the reaction of ammonia dissociation takes place at the steel surface. Nitrogen ions are absorbed by the surface and then diffuse into the depth of the metal. Okay, the ions of the nitrogen in nitriding process, they are absorbed by the surface layer, and slowly with the span of time they will diffuse into the depth of the metal. Now, since nitriding is like uh, when the you can say the layer will be formed, so the total time taken for nitrogen to react with the steel surface is about 100 hours. And 100 hours is a very long time for a process to take place. Okay, 100 hours is a very long time for a process to take place or happen. So if ammonia is heated in an isolated volume, okay, then the reaction will be like 2NH3 gives N2N gives 3H2 is possible, and the molecular, okay, this reaction is possible, and the molecular nitrogen formed by this reaction cannot diffuse into the metal without being ionized. Okay, here the nitrogen is received after this reaction. Okay, it cannot diffuse into the metal directly. The depth to which the nitrides are formed, it depends on the temperature and time allowed for the reaction. And in normal condition, it is unlikely to exceed zero point 0.7 mm. Okay, they say that the components are cooled slowly in the ammonia hydrogen atmosphere. The process of nitriding is usually completed with the formation in the metal surface of the phase in which an FTP lattice and ordered arrangements of atoms in a wide range of concentration. Okay, since they told us that around 100 hours are required for the process to happen, nitriding to happen. Okay, now the nitrides are formed on the surface layer. So the depth to which the nitrides are formed, okay, now they depend on time and temperature that you give for the reaction to happen. Okay, it depends upon time and temperature that you give for the reaction to happen. Okay, now when nitriding carbon steels, the rate of nitrogen decreases with an increase of carbon content, and the formation of carbon nitride phase becomes possible. A thin white layer of nitride is formed on the surface of the component, which should be removed by mechanical or chemical means, as these layers adversely affect the mechanical properties. Okay, you say that maybe sometimes what happens, the while nitriding some kind of carbon steels, okay, the rate of nitrogen that is diffusing into the metal, it decreases because with the increase of carbon content. Okay, and this increase of carbon content, this may lead to formation of carbon nitride. Okay, so for this what happens, a white thin layer of nitride is formed on the component, and if this layer is formed, we should try to remove this layer as fast as possible, because this layer, white layer, will be affect the mechanical properties of the workpiece. Okay, so that's why this nitriding process, it may be it is a rather time consuming process. Okay, nitrided layers of alloy steels have higher value of hardness. Okay, nitrided layers of alloy steels have higher value of hardness and wear resistance as compared with carburized layers. Now there comes another application. When you compare nitriding with carburizing process, they say that the nitrided layers of alloyed steels have higher value of hardness and wear resistance when compared with carburized layers. So this is a point of concern. So since no quenching treatment, since no quenching treatment is required with nitriding. When you go with nitriding process, they say that means no quenching treatment is required with nitriding. Cracking and distortion are less likely to occur. Now here comes another positive attitude of nitriding, that there is no quenching treatment, so the issues of cracks and distortion, they are less likely to occur. So with this process, like with this nitriding process, very high surface hardness can be obtained with special alloys. Okay. Now, this hardness is retained up to about 500 degrees centigrade compared to carburizing, in which case the surface becomes softer at about 200 degrees centigrade. Now, it is really an important thing. Okay. The nitriding process is, however, used less frequently than carburizing, mainly in the view of its longer duration and smaller depth of strength there. Okay, which limits the allowable contact loads onto the metal surface. Because what happens that they have been told that around zero point 0.7 mm is layer is formed in a you can say different a particular type of time it is taken. They say that the nitriding process takes a long time, and in that long time, very small, you can say, depth of your even a small layer of a particular strength is formed. Okay, so they go for carburizing process more as compared to nitriding process. Okay, so in recent time, the sources of highly concentrated energy, okay, highly concentrated energy like electron and laser beams have come into use for heat treatment of some particles. Okay, now pulses of electrons and laser beams. Okay, now these you can talk about pulses of electron laser beams can be used efficiently for local heating of the surface of articles, which makes it possible to carry out surface hardening of working of cutting tools and certain areas of the articles that are subjected to wear. Okay, you will understand this that in some cases a thin surface layer is heated to melting and then cooled quickly so that a fine grained or amorphous structure forms in it. So here we have to be careful. Now in surface hardening by means of sources of highly concentrated energy. Now we're talking about surface hardening. By means of sources of highly concentrated energy, water quenching becomes needless. Since a thin, locally heated surface layer is cooled rapidly by the underlying matter. Okay. Now they are telling that how we can say in this way in surface hardening the water quenching can become needless. Okay, can. Now, electron accelerators and continuous wave gas lasers and pulse lasers can be employed for this purpose. Now come to topic age hardening or precipitation hardening. See, it is also a kind of a hardening process, but as the name says, age hardening. Okay, it means that something that is getting hardened with the age or something which is getting strength with time. Okay, something which gets strength with time. So it is age hardening or precipitation hardening. Okay, so let's start with it. One can enhance the strength and hardness of some metal alloys by the formation of extremely small, uniformly dispersed particles of a second phase within the original phase matter. However, this must be accomplished by phase transformation that are induced by appropriate heat treatments. Okay, there are some heat treatments that can be used in this. So the process is termed as precipitation hardening, as the small particles of the new phase are termed precipitates. Okay, now they are discussing about precipitation hardening. Okay, and they say that in this the small particles of the new phase they are told that they have termed as them as precipitates. Or they have also said that this process is also called as age hardening. Yeah, as the strength develops. In this age hardening, what happens? I just told you before also, is the strength develops with time or the alloy ages. Okay, the strength develops. Now, the alloys that are hardened by this process are aluminium, copper, beryllium, copper tin, and magnesium aluminum. Few ferrous alloys are also precipitation hardenable. So now you understood that if you compare this with nitrating also had applications in like various alloy steels. Okay, now here this has also its application in different kinds of alloys. Okay, and they are also very these commonly used alloys in the industry like copper, aluminium, copper, tin, magnesium, aluminum. These are all commonly used alloys that are used in the industry. So age hardening holds its application, holds its importance. Now, age hardening is a characteristic of alloys with a falling solid solubility. Example, the solubility of copper in aluminium to form the solid solution is only 9.5% at room temperature. Okay, you have to understood this thing. Age hardening is a characteristic of alloys with a falling solid solubility. Example, the solubility of copper. We will just read about this alloys that can be hardened by the process of aluminum copper. So now we are discussing about this aluminum copper. They say that the solubility of copper in aluminum to form solid solution is only 9.5% at room temperature. So it increases with rise in temperature and reaching a maximum of 5.7% at 548 degrees centigrade. Okay, obviously the solubility of copper with aluminium depends on the temperature. Okay, it depends on the temperature. They say that the you can say it increases with rise in temperature and reaching a maximum of 5.7% at 540 degrees centigrade. So when an alloy containing 4% copper is cooled slowly from the alpha region, coarse particles of CuAl2 gets precipitated. In this condition, the alloy is comparatively weak and brittle. Here comes the application and the properties that at this point of time, okay, where you can say that there is alloy of having only 4% copper is cooled slowly. You can say that in this during this process, the coarse particles of CuAl2 get precipitated, and they say that at this moment and in this condition, the alloy is comparatively weak and brittle. So this is a point of concern. So when carried out the age hardening treatment as follows, this improves mechanical properties. The first is the alloy is heated to a prescribed temperature of 500 degrees centigrade to dissolve and other alloying elements. The alloy is quenched. The alloy that you are taking is quenched from the above temperature to supersaturate the alpha solid solution at room temperature, keeping precipitation rate very low. A supersaturated solid solution of 4% copper in aluminum is obtained. Okay. The precipitation of copper as CuCl2 is prevented by rapid cooling. Now, finally, you can say the alloy is kept at room temperature and hardens and hardening age occurs spontaneously. Okay. Now, when the solute atoms form a solid solution with solvent atoms, it produces an alloy which is harder and also has more strength than the pure solvent metal. Okay, this is termed as solute hardening. What they say, when the solute atoms they form a solid solution with the solvent atoms. The solute is responsible for forming the solid solution. Okay, so here when the solute atoms forms a solid solution with solvent atom, it is also produced in alloy which is harder and also more strength than the pure solvent matter. So this is termed as solute hardening. This is just as we talk about this topic of you can say forming a solid solution of solute and solvent atoms. So this is termed as solute hardening. So interestingly, precipitation hardening and the treating of steel to form tempered martensite are totally different phenomena. Okay, even though the heat treatment procedures are similar, the principal difference between the two lies in the mechanism by which hardening and strengthening are achieved. A comparison between various surface hardening processes is made in table 10.3. So here when you do the comparative study of main hardening processes, they tell you that in pack carburizing, you have around 850 to 1100 degrees centigrade as temperature. Then the case depth is 0.25 to 3.0 mm and hardness is 450 to 750 HR. And the applications say that the low carbon and carburizing allows these large components. Then gas carburizing, it is also at 850 to 1000 degrees centigrade and it has a case depth of 0.07 to 3.0 mm. Okay, and then the hardness is you can check it 450 to 750 HRC. In this also application, the low carbon and carburizing alloy steels, and there's a large number of components. Then comes the cyaniding. Now the cyaniding is also very important. In this, they have a temperature of 750 to 850 degrees centigrade, and they have a case depth of 0.2 to 2.7, and at the hardness is 550 HRC, which is normally used in low carbon or light alloy. Now comes the nitriding process. Now nitriding process has a temperature of 500 to 530 degrees centigrade and the case depth of 0.07 to zero point 0.7 degrees centigrade and hardness will be like 550. Oh, sorry. Let me start with the okay. Yeah, 550 to 850 degrees HRC. Sorry, the hardness will be 550 to 850 HRC. And application are like alloy steels can be used with the alloy steels. Then flame hardening. It is around temperature of 850 to 1000 degrees centigrade and it has a case depth of around zero point 0.8 mm. Okay, and the hardness is around 600 to 750 HRC and its application is in carbon steels having percentage as 0.4 to 0.7%. Then induction hardening. This is also a kind of a hardening process. And in this, the temperature is around 850 to 1000 degrees centigrade and the case depth is zero point 0.5 to 5.0 mm, which is now this is increased from all above cases. The case depth has increased. Okay, and the hardness is 600 to 750 degrees. Sorry, 600 to 750 HRC. Okay, 600 to 750 HRC. And here also it is used in carbon steels having zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.7. Now, if you compare all the processes, you can see that the temperature reached higher is in pack carburizing, gas carburizing, and flame hardening, induction hardening, while the case depth is high in induction hardening. It is maximum till 5.0 mm, okay, which is a good amount of case depth. Okay, well, the hardness is approximately all are having about 450. Well, in induction hardening and flame hardening, you get the maximum hardness possible. Okay, so let's start with the next slide. Now, mass effect. Now, this is an also important because the components, okay, they are having some kind of structure. They may have higher thickness. So, in that way, the mass effect is a point of consideration. So, let's discuss about mass structure. Oh, sorry, mass effect in this. Now, variation in hardness across a section of the components having higher thickness through heat treatment is termed as mass effect. Okay, so the hardness of plain carbon steels it depends on its carbon content and the rate of cooling from the hardening temperature. Okay, the hardness of plain carbon steel it depends on the carbon content. Obviously, since the name is plain carbon steel, then the carbon content is important, and then rate of cooling from hardening temperature. So this is an also a kind of hardness. Now, part having less thickness, a part is if a part having less thickness will cool more quickly in comparison to a part having higher thickness because the core will get cooled later on layer by layer when both are cooled in the same quenching mode. Obviously, if you take a thick sheet and a thin sheet, and or you can say a thick part or thin part, or and if you try to cool them in the same quenching bath, the thinner will cool faster while the thicker will you can say will cool down little slowly. The thin material will cool down faster, and while the thick material will take time for cooling down. Okay, so they have a different cooling. So the thicker component outer layer will cool faster than the core and the heat will get trapped at the center. Now this is an important thing. The thicker components, what happens? The outer layer will become cool faster than the core. Okay, and the heat will be trapped at the center of the core. So this causes to a variation of in the hardness across the section of the component. So since the gases are trapped at the center, so this may lead to some kind of you can say variation in hardness across the section of. Our result may be another layer of martensite and an inner core of pearlite. Now they have told you the effect. Okay, this variation in hardness is generally referred to as mass effect, and you can see this in the figure how the materialistic structure is there. Okay, on the layer and inner core is having fine particles of you can say pearlite. Okay, you can say pearlite. So due to mass effect, plain carbon steels having large sections are said to have a poor hardenability as they cannot be fully hardened. Now, okay, if you can see that how the diagram is okay there on the right hand side. So 3% nickel steel containing 3% carbon will behave approximately or will harden uniformly towards its section. Okay, if it is having 3% carbon, it will harden uniformly towards its section as it has relatively low critical cooling rate. However, due to higher carbon content, the plain carbon steel will exhibit a very much higher than surface. Okay, surface hardness because of its high carbon content. Okay, the plain carbon content will exhibit a much higher. Now, obviously, the rate of cooling that takes place for a component when quenched in water it depends on the size of the document. Okay, however, if the size of the component is there, then you can go for it. Ah, so slower will be its rate of cooling for bigger size, obviously, and therefore the quenching medium has to be chosen keeping in view the particular size of the component. For example, for a 12 mm, for each 12 mm diameter bar, air cooling may result in a microstructure involving perlite and ferrite. Okay, with oil quenching, the outcome is bainite plus martensite. However, with water quenching, the microstructure is only martensite. So, if martensite structure is desired, then for this particular diameter, bar water quenching must be used. Okay, so here they have told you that when you are cooling, okay, then during the quenching process, you can say like if you take water as a quenching medium, now the you can say rate of cooling it also depends on the size of the component. Okay, so regarding the you can say the if you keep this you can say explanation in a sentence, so you can say that if the rate of cooling is slower than might be the size of the component is big. Okay, and vice versa also, that if the size of the component is big, then maybe the rate of cooling will be slower. Okay, so this is the thing. Now, principal equipment for heat treatment. Now, when we are doing this heat treatment process, and might be we will use some equipment only for heat treatment process, like for annealing. When we're talking about annealing, then we took the name furnace in it, because we tried to heat in the material in the furnace, and then we open the furnace and kept that we keep the workpiece to cool down in furnace only. When we talk about normalizing, then also the name furnace came, or where you will heat the workpiece to a certain temperature and then allow it to cool in the open air. So the importance of furnace in heat treatment is important. So here we go, and now even if you go for the quenching process, then also you will see with the furnace that is used, okay, in which the material is heated to a particular temperature and then quenched into the required medium. Okay, so the principal equipment for heat treatment of metals include heat furnaces and installations and cooling arrangements. Okay, these are required. There are two major kinds of furnaces, like you called as a batch furnace and a continuous furnace. You also, depending on the source of heat, heating furnaces are divided into electric and fuel fire. Okay, now there are two major kinds of furnaces, like batch. Okay, like batch furnace and continuous furnace, and also depending on the source of heat that we are using, heating furnaces are divided into electric and fuel fire. Okay, the fuel being gas or let's say secondary fuel oil. Okay, so the section of furnace requires consideration of several factors, particularly because furnace consumes a good amount of energy. See, furnace are used to heat the material. Okay, heat the workpiece or thing. So they require a very good amount of energy that can heat up the whole content of the material. Okay, they require a good installation, a good furnaces, and a good cooling arrangement also for the next purpose. So to make efficient use of energy or in heat furnaces, they design and proper installation, proper insulation requires full consideration. Okay, just as I told you, the design is important for efficient use of heat furnaces, and there also proper insulation. Proper insulation is also there, which requires full consideration. So, in selecting a furnace, the manpower requirement for operation, the initial cost, and the convenience of maintenance and repair are some of the important considerations. Okay, the manpower requirement for operation, the initial cost, and convenience of maintenance and repair are some of the important consideration while selecting a heat furnace, right? But if you are purchasing a heat furnace and if the costing is very high, plus it is consuming a lot of amount of energy, then as just the applications are comparatively half of the thing that we have purchased the furnace for that purpose. So instead of doing that, we have to understand that also, that for selecting the furnace we should consider all things that is important, because as per our demand we should fulfill that. So to avoid oxidation and decarburization of steel articles during heating, the workspace of modern heating furnaces is vacuumed or filled with an inert gas forming a protective gaseous layer. Okay, now avoid oxidation and carburizing. Now, during of steel articles during heating, they say that the working space in which all the work is done of modern heating furnaces is vacuumized and they fill the inert gas in it, then which forms a protective gaseous atmosphere. For increasing the productivity of heat treatment of small particles, elements of machines and instruments, heat for the high speed heating is employed and articles are placed in a preheated furnace. Okay, so temporary thermal stresses appearing during heating in small articles cannot. cause their cracking or buckling. Okay, high speed heating may, however, be dangerous for large articles like rolls, shafts, large business, etc. For them, they may be harmful. So, because of these kinds of articles are heated slowly together with the furnace, okay, or by a stepwise schedule, you can use it. Okay, now in some cases, high speed heating is carried out in a molten bath. Now, here the molten bath comes into action. So, there high speed heating is carried out in molten salted bath, like heating of drills, screw traps, and other small tools because they are used to, because they are important. And since temperature control and temperature cycle control are very important in heat treatment, and therefore electronic and computer control furnaces are taking procedures over older type furnace. See the concept, okay, are you can say very important. So the temperature control and temperature cycle control are very important in heat treatment. Okay, and for that purpose only, we try to, in order to save the energy, we go for electronic and computer comprised control furnaces. Okay, the design whether remains the same, the concept remains the same. The oil or gas furnaces have distinct advantage over electrical furnaces due to former often introduce products of combustion in the heating space and thus affecting the part to the heating. On the other hand, the electrical heating has slower startup. The electrical heating that you're doing has slower startup and also not easy to control. Now comes the batch furnace. See, we discussed about furnace. So now we're talking about the batch furnace. So in order to place the job in place, the basic requirements of these furnaces are an insulated chamber, the heating system, and a door or a several doors. So the parts to be heat treated are loaded and unloaded in individual batches. You can see in the diagram also in the furnace how the parts are loaded either in batches or individual batches, whatever you think. So a furnace which is easy to use, simple to construct in various size, and also having versatility to accommodate different sizes in a box furnace, which could be horizontal, regular. So several times a flat platforms on wheels is used to carry the parts in the furnace. Now we're talking about the different kinds of batch furnaces. Like the first is pitch furnace, or you can call it a pit furnace. This is made in form of a vertical pit below the ground level. You can see the in the diagram on the upper side, on the right hand side. You can see how the pit furnace looks like. This kind of a vertical pit above the ground level. And okay, the parts to be heated are lowered in the pit. So one can suspend long parts like rod, bar, tubing shafts, etc. in the space of pit furnace. If placed in horizontal position in the box furnace, then these parts are susceptible to distortion. So to avoid distortion, we go for this kind of batch furnace. Okay, okay. Sorry, this kind of pit furnace, not batch. It is a kind of a batch furnace, but this is called as a pit furnace. Now bell furnace. Now this furnace does not have bottom and is allowed to on the stack of parts to be treated. Okay, the furnace chamber could be round or rectangular, whatever you want. Now elevator furnace. Now in this furnace, what happens? The parts to be treated are placed on the rolling platform, which rolled in the proper position and lifted to the heating chamber of the furnace. By placing a quenching tank tightly below the surface, the saving on quenching time and space are okay. By placing the quenching tank directly below the surface, saving on the quenching time and space are made. Okay, so elevator furnace has their own application. Okay, they place the quenching tank directly below the surface, so they save the quenching time and space with there and there only. So this is important. Now continuous furnace. These are the furnaces in which the you can see in the diagram a full furnace is there. So these are furnaces in which parts to be treated are placed on some sort of conveyor which move into the furnaces according to the programmed heating cooling cycle. So this helps in saving the time for loading, unloading, and also handling of job is reduced. So these furnaces are most suitable for high production rate and better control of heat treating cycle. Okay, now some sort of conveyor is used in them. Okay, and with this conveyor, it moves inside the furnace, and this furnace is totally programmed. So the conveyor is moved according to the programmed, or you can say the programmed heating cooling cycle. So why this is important. Continuous furnace is most used in industries because this saves the time for loading and loading, and also handling of the job is reduced. Okay, so where the production is very high, you can go with these kind of continuous furnaces for the company. Then salt bath furnace. So have to ensure good control of uniform temperature and high heating rates as compared to air or gas. Salt bath furnaces are most suitable. So molten or metal or molten salts have high conductivity than air or gas. The salt may be heated from the outside of it is non-conducting or are passing a low voltage alternating current between electrodes placed in the salt. So in order to avoid electrolysis of salt, direct current is not used. Okay, we need to avoid electrolysis of salt, so direct current is not used. So among metals, lead is commonly used. One can obtain wide range of temperature from such furnaces. Now the induction heating. Let me check we have time. Okay, now we'll straight away go to the quiz part. Okay, and we'll go with this in the next class. So the MCQ for today. Now, when nitriding carbon steels, the rate of nitrogen diffusion decreases with an increase of carbon content and the formation of carbon nitride phase becomes possible. So we have discussed this statement during the nitriding process, and they say that if you are using a carbon steel for nitriding, you can say the diffusion of nitrogen will decrease if the carbon content is increases, and if such a possibility is there, then the formation of carbon nitride phase becomes possible. This is true. This is true. So nitriding is rather time consuming process, as I just told you. Nitrided layers of alloyed steels have higher values of hardness and wear resistance compared with carburized layers. So this is very important thing that nitriding is a time consuming process that we just studied in the previous slides, and if you talk about the alloyed steels, then they have higher value of hardness when you talk about nitriding process, and the wear resistance is also good as compared to the carburized layers. So it is true. Okay. Now the process is called as age hardening because the strength develops with time or the alloy ages. Now, as the term says, age hardening or precipitation hardening, then it obviously means that something is developing with time or with age. So, since hardening word is used, then strength is developing with time or alloy aging. So, this is true. The this is made in form of a vertical pit below the ground level, and this furnace, talking about a furnace. The parts to be treated are lowered in the pit. One can suspend log parts like rod, bars, tubing, shafting, etc. in the space of the pit furnace. If placed in horizontal position in the box furnace, these parts are susceptible to distortion. So we call it as a pitch furnace or pit furnace, whatever is possible. Okay, now uh, in selecting a heat furnace, the manpower requirements for operation, the initial cost and convenience of maintenance and repair are some of the important consideration. Obviously, when you select a heat furnace, there are various important considerations. Some of them are like the manpower consideration, Then the costings and the maintenance convenience and repair are also important. So this is true. Now they're talking about a furnace. So this furnace does not have bottom and is lowered on the stack of parts to be treated. So the furnace chamber could be round or rectangular. What do we call this kind of furnace? It's called as a bell furnace. Okay, this is called as a bell furnace. This is the process of diffusion saturated of steel surface with nitrogen. What do we call it? We call it as nitriding. And in this process, the component is heated in the mixture of ammonia and hydrogen, so the nitrogen diffuses into the surface layers and hard nitride compounds are formed. What do we call this? We call this as nitriding. This process is employed for increasing the wear resistance and endurance limit of machine elements. For crankshafts, then the sleeve worms, gears, the shafts, etc. So what do we call this? We call it as nitriding. This process is called as nitriding. Now they're talking about a furnace. That in this furnace, the parts to be treated are placed on the rolling platform, which rolls in proper position and lifted to the heating chamber on the furnace. By placing quenching time directly below surface on quenching time, spaces are made. So what do we call this? What do we call this surface? We call it as a elevator furnace. So we have completed our lecture, and these are the references which you can refer and grow your knowledge more in these topics by reading these books. Okay, these books have elaborative content on this kind of on these topics and more diagrams for you. You can study them and you can increase your knowledge by reading those books. So thank you all for now.